Weird setup on my computer here. We got people in here?
You're due.
All right. All right. Well, welcome everybody to our third session on this boot camp, kind of preseason 2025. Thanks for getting on here today. Just overarching principles. We've hired Eduardo, we've hired Luke here to help you guys in a couple different areas. One, education around the software so that you can use the software more efficiently or more deeply, and then just having more people to ask questions and let you guys have an easier job coaching, using these things as tools, but not getting frustrated with it or not trying to having to figure things out because you have some customer support to help you and have been taught some things. We're also trying to take the teaching, particularly off like coaches in the situation where like, hey, you got a manager doing this or a new person, et cetera. So we want you guys to get what you can only do and let us help you with some other things. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Eduardo that's going to run the session today. And thanks for being customers, and we look forward to a great season. Let us know if there's anything that you need from us.
Thank you. So I want to start out by just letting you know we have a couple of polls available just so we can have some idea of how long you've been using VolleyStation and what your current role is with your team. So if you want to go ahead and respond to those polls, that'd be cool. We're going to get started. Today's session, where the rubber meets the road, is about in-match coding and analysis, and it's about opponent scouting and then post-match analysis, generally of your own team. This is a lot of the most fun stuff, like, hey, I'll be honest, in all the days that I've spent coding, I've definitely spent way more time coding practices than I have matches, and coding matches and scouting opponents is definitely the more fun / interesting part of the job. So these are the times that I really enjoy the role that I get to play as a performance analyst, as a scout kind of person. So with that in mind, I want to talk about scouting first, because that's the thing you'll be doing before you get into matches. More than likely, is you're going to start prepping for those opponents that you're going to be playing. And so how can we use VolleyStation to be better with our scouting? And also how can we be thinking about scouting so that we're using VolleyStation and other tools a little bit better? First thing I want to do is I want to remind you in your settings that you want to be using the raw coding. So in your settings here, in the coding mode, raw for fast coders versus predictive for new. Even if you are a new coder, definitely recommend that you're using the raw coding mode, because this is what you're going to learn how to do. And so it's a better idea, I think, to be kind of using the training wheels a little bit less, because it's going to be much better for you in the long run, and you're really allowing yourself to be faster sooner as a coder if you're using that raw coding mode. Now, one question that I think comes up a lot when we talk about scouting is how much video should you watch and which matches should you watch? And here's the thing. So like we've talked about this in previous boot camps. I have a separate season set up that is just all of my scout files. And as you can see here, I mean, this is 34 pages. This is like, I think it's between 160 and 180 matches. Basically, what I'm in the habit of doing is downloading all the scout files for all of the matches for all of my opponents. I don't download all the video but I do download all the scout files. So I'm not going to watch video of of all of these matches that are in here, but I might be looking at video of particular teams in particular situations. So even though I've got, just pages and pages and pages of scout material that I could be looking at, if I wanted to analyze video, I might just take a handful of things. So let's say I wanted to look at Baylor. I might, depending on when I'm going to play them, I'm going to make some decisions about which matches I'm going to look at. Maybe I'm just going to look at like the past 3 to 5 matches, something like that. There isn't necessarily a right number. There is not a best number. The thing that I think about with this is, as soon as I start increasing the number of matches that I'm going to look at, then the amount of time I could potentially spend watching video is going to be it's going to increase, not quite exponentially, but maybe geometrically for all the math nerds. So even let's take a look at, like, if I just want to look at all the rallies that where Baylor's in serve receive. So I pull up all of their receptions, and it's just the single plays, not even the full points. That's 34 minutes of video. If I want to see the full plays, that's over an hour's worth of video that, yeah, I could be watching. And there's a trade-off here between how much do I need to watch to get a good sense of what they're going to do, and how much video do I need to watch to feel like I know everything they're going to do in every single situation. Because you can know everything they're going to do in every single situation, but the question is that an effective use of your time? You reach this area of diminishing returns on that graph where you're spending so much time trying to find every single little wrinkle. Oh, well, but what do they do in reception after a timeout, after an attack error? That's important. How important is it? If that's the thing that's going to win or lose you a match, that's the way you're thinking about things, there's probably some bigger rocks that you could be focusing on getting more out of, both in your prep time as well as in your preparation or in your actual match scouting time, like what you're paying attention to in match, that's going to get you more bang for your buck and keep you out of a situation where those razor thin differences are going to make as much or have as big of an impact on the outcomes of sets. So there is a trade-off, and I want you to think about the amount of time that you're going to spend and how you might actually be spending that time in some other area. Going back to the amount of data that I can pull, right? So if I've got all of these matches available and I want to go look at spreadsheets, and let's see, let's say I want to look at serving directions by rotation. That's a nice sheet. So this is pulling that same bunch of 5 matches, the last 5 matches that Baylor's played, and that's just a whole mess of data. Could I look at all 28 to 32 matches that Baylor has played? Yes, I can. That's going to become even more of an explosion at the Aero Factory than what I'm already looking at here. And so the question becomes, how much data do I need in order to say that I understand what this team is going to be doing? So I like to be able to have all the stats available, because then averages become much more average. They become a much better indication of what a team actually does. And then I've got enough data that when I start slicing things thinner, so if I want to look at serve directions by rotation, I've got enough data that when I just look at row 1, there's there's enough here for me to be able to draw some conclusions about like, wow, it sure looks like they really like serving the ball at zone 5 or in the 5-6 seam. Now, I can still have a whole bunch of questions about why that happens, but I've got enough data to recognize that this is a consistent thing, right? Even though most typically the server that they have in rotation 1 is starting in zone 1. They also have someone who serves from zone 5 or zone 7, but they're still serving in the same general direction, that seam between probably a front row outside and a middle back passer. And so I have enough data here to be able to see some good things about what's the efficiency coming out of that. What is our ace percentage? Those become much better indications of what this team is capable of doing or what it is that they like to do. And so having more data to look at just numbers and averages, I think is better. But again, if I dumped all of the data into a heat map or into a graph with arrows, it starts to get really noisy. And so that's where I recommend maybe scaling down. And maybe this is where, for me as an analyst, I would go back and look at lineups for maybe 10 matches in a row and see if there were differences in lineups. If the lineups were more or less the same, then I could probably chop off a bunch of the older matches and still get the data that I needed in order to give decision makers good information. If there were different lineups, then I could see which matches the different lineups occurred in. And then I could give better context about the data that I might give and say, hey, you know what? This clump of serves over here from zone 7 came when this player was out injured, but now she's back. So I think you can pretty safely ignore these and just focus on the serves coming from this direction. But that's a matter of how I choose to use all the data that I have available to me. So this is always a sort of a delicate balance that I think bears constant renegotiation, constant thought about how I want to use this and how much I want to use it. In keeping with that, I want to think about how much data should I clean? That's a question that we get a lot. If I'm going to download all of these volumetrics files, am I cleaning all of these, all 160 conference matches that I have in here? The answer is no. I don't clean any of them. And that is understandably very far at one end of the spectrum. The other end of that spectrum is download a lot of matches and clean all of them. And I think that there's a lot of room in the middle of that spectrum to be very useful with the data that you do download and the data that you clean and the data that you don't clean. And so I think that there's some questions to be asking about if you're going to clean data or not. So these matches that I have are VolleyMetrics downloads. And so one of the things that you can see that I've done here, if you look, is I've converted the code for these. PZ is not an attack combination that VolleyMetrics likes to use. Same with PF, PG, PT. These are combinations that I've set up. If I go back to my settings here and I look at all the way down my combination map, I have this combination map of VM combinations. And this is where I've mapped out what VolleyMetrics attack combinations are and what we use in the program that I most recently was working for. And so this conversion was really more just so that I could be consistent with the language that we used internally in our program. If the language that you use internally is couched in VolleyMetrics attack combinations, then you don't need this combination map, and you don't need to use the code converter to do this. But that's something that I would do. I didn't clean up these attack combinations. I just let it ride. One tool that I would use to be able to look at this would be to search code. And then if I wanted to say, let's see, home PD, which is the code that I was using for reds for an in system or a tempoed set to the right pin to the opposite. So let's say I searched for all of those, right? Well, better would be to show all of these. I know I don't have a video up here. I can add this in real quick. Oops, nope, can't do that. Sorry, I lied. Because this is a scout match, I only have my videos in particular. But what I could be doing here is just skating through all of these results and making sure as I see them on video, are these things actually being set to the right-hand pin, or is this something that I need to clean up or not? I have always gone with, I'm not going to clean all these. The answer to bad data is more data. If I've got all of the video available or all of the data available, then I can assume that the number of times that these sets are not what they say they are is small enough that it's going to get drowned out by the ones that are what they say they are. Luke, you got something you'd like to interject, please?
Yeah. So just coming at this from, I spent my time using this program as an assistant coach and as a person who was solely responsible for building the defensive scout, so the opponent scout. And to counter your opinion, Eduardo, is I would have my managers clean everything that was backlogged. And then I would typically clean the last 2 weekends of matches prior to me playing a team. So I was getting 4 matches of cleaning in, which in my opinion, that was just extra opportunities for me to watch and learn teams. So I actually enjoyed the cleaning of the code. While I agree, Eduardo, like the more data you have, the less impactful those mistakes are going to be. For me, it was more of an opportunity to get to learn the teams while also correcting some of that. And it got me, when I was cleaning passes or cleaning where the setter positions, it got to be, I was learning that team and forming some opinions, which I think is, valuable to some people.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I'd agree. I think there's multiple approaches to this. You got to figure out what works for your team, but for sure, you should be watching some video. So while you're watching it, you might as well clean some of it while you're in there. If that's your job to put together a scout, if your job is just to deliver the stats at the end of the day, and this is not part of your job, then it is what it is. So you can use different approaches.
Yeah, thank you. In keeping with that idea, what I'd like to talk about with that is another question that I think you should be asking about how you clean code is, what are you cleaning it for? One of the things that I see is, or that I hear about a lot, is people cleaning code to fix reception grades. And I think that there's a couple of things that we can be thinking about when we're thinking about the reception grades. And that is, am I doing this to fit a certain way that I have of evaluating receptions within my program? So what I mean by that is like, do I want to know what their reception average is if I was the one coding all of their receptions? And to me, like that, there are better ways that I can be spending my time than going through all of these receptions to see, are they exactly, do I agree with the grades that were given to them? Are all of these R pluses what I would call an R plus? Are some of them going to be R pound? Are some of them going to be R exclamation? Whatever. If I'm just doing it to say that it meets the standard that we use within our program, maybe I don't need to do that, because ultimately the way that I'm thinking about receptions is that I'm looking at reception averages. So if I go back to spreadsheets and I go to stat sheets, right, and I pull up this stat sheet, all of the information here about Laura Bryceño's reception. If I want to know if I should be serving Bryceño or if I should be serving someone else, if the decisions that I'm making are about comparison within their own team, then maybe I don't need to clean all of those reception grades, because what her average is if I graded it versus what her reception average is if someone from volumetrics graded it doesn't matter as much if I'm just trying to figure out, is she the best target or not? Because it's all just relative. It's not really important how she passes relative to what I would score her. What matters is, how does she pass relative to the people who are around her, who are also potential serving targets? So that's another question to be thinking about, is, are you doing this as a form of comparing one player to another, again, within the same team, or is there something else you're using it for? For instance, if you have worksheets that are based on, or if you've got like video that you're watching that is going to be based on set distribution after a in-system pass, then you probably want to make sure all those passes are in system. It's no longer about stats. It's about watching video and judging decision making, in which case you need those things to maybe be more consistent than what you're getting or what you're comfortable with from volumetrics. If that's the case, then yeah, you should probably do a lot more cleaning than I'm initially suggesting. Luke.
Yeah, just to add, another reason why you want to clean is bad cameras. There are some cameras, in my experience, that are poorly placed, that are not good quality, and depending on the angle from behind the court that you're getting, clean the code. So there were certain schools that, no matter what, I wasn't trusting the data I was getting from volumetrics specifically. So I was going back and cleaning all of it, because the amount of errors were 20% or greater. So I felt like that was a statistically important enough for me to go back and clean. Sorry.
No, awesome. Thank you. And those are the kinds of things, again, it's like there's a balance here between bad data and more data. I felt confident enough that I had some other things that I was doing in my scout workflow that would help me weed out some of the bad errors, like Luke was talking about, where like there's bad cameras, and as a result, scouting from those venues would be a lot more questionable. Like, or there were teams that had jersey sets that were really difficult to read, and so I knew that there was going to be a higher number of misidentified players. I had other things going on in my workflow that would allow me to catch those things and fix them, but where it didn't become just this part of my daily adventures was to just open up a new match, go through every attack, and make sure that the attack combination and the player and the grade was correct. I think there's a lot of room here to decide what cleaning means, and figuring out what exactly you're doing to make the code that you're downloading viable for what it is that you're doing with it. But I do think that it's important to actually ask those questions versus just assuming that you've got to download all the data and clean all of it. I think it brings up the old cliche that we've always done it that way is the worst reason to continue to do anything. I think it's good to be able to step back a little bit and question some of those things, and ask, how is this benefiting? How would changing this thing that we're doing, this legacy thing that we're doing, how might changing it benefit us from a time standpoint or from a decision-making standpoint. Now, with that said, when you clean, how might you go about cleaning? Something that you've seen me doing as I've been sitting here talking about this is using the search tool. And so the search is a great way to be able to just go from one from one skill to another, and be able to scout up some different things or clean some different things. I'm going to go back to this season, and I'm going to scout a different. Let's take a look at Atlanta Austin. So this one's going to have a lot more different things in it. Now, this one I haven't converted to code, so this would be an opportunity for me to clean it that way if I wanted to. I'm not going to worry about that right now. What I am going to look at, though, is away X5 kills. How about that? And so then I can clean using that search, because this way I can go look at the thing in the video, and then decide, do I need to make any changes to this code or not? That's one way that I can use the search feature in order to clean code. Another thing that I can do is, Jesse mentioned this in a previous session. If I click this down arrow here, I can search and replace. So let's say that I knew that in this match, player number 12 on their roster was actually wearing number 14. And the file that I downloaded from VolleyMetrics was before that got QA'd and fixed. And so I could search and replace all of those things if I know that there's an error going in, or if I know that there's something that VolleyMetrics always has in their scout files that I always want to fix. If that's the case, then I can do something like this, and I can save that rule, and then that becomes part of my future workflow as I'm cleaning code, is to just apply those saved rules. And I can do that very quickly and efficiently. Apply those saved rules by clicking the apply button. The code all changes for me, and then I can move on to other parts of my workflow. So the search and replace is one way of doing it. As I started to mention here, I can also do this in batches. So like right now I'm looking at all X5s. Maybe I want to look at, what if I wanted to look at all sets that of the ball type T, right? So this is going to focus more on the setter. Again, like I want to make sure that these are all sets that meet my criteria for this particular set type or the attack that follows it. I like to batch things versus going line by line in the code to clean things up. I think it's more efficient. Like I can focus in on just one particular aspect of what's happening and not have to keep switching from now I have to evaluate how good is the reception. Now I have to evaluate which direction is the set. Now I have to evaluate what's the direction of the attack. I think it allows me to focus in and not feel like I'm multitasking as much. With that said, there is an opportunity to think about skills in pairs. Like maybe I can do receptions and do setter and do K codes at the same time, right? So maybe I'm searching for all the K codes. Whoops, sorry, I guess I can't do it that way. I can search for all the sets, and I could refine this by adding in, let's see, away reception. Oops, B-0, right? That should be it. Oops, nope, screwed it up. Just that. All right, sorry, I don't remember how to type this from scratch. Sue me. But I could make this search such that I'm going to go find it. I can just look for my reception attempts, and I can make sure that my K codes in first ball are all correct. And so, but I can also be looking at the code here, and then just scrolling back up from the set to the reception to make sure that those things are matching. And I can do those things fairly efficiently, coupled together. So I think that those are some different approaches that you can use to be able to clean things more efficiently versus just going line by line by line. One last thing that you can be doing is using worksheets. Remember that you have the ability to right-click on these and select Show on Video. So if you've got a worksheet that allows you to look for some particular aspects of play, so like if I wanted to look at, for some reason I wanted to look at all the free ball plays that take place, I can just show in video. Let's say that I just wanted to focus on the away team. I can get rid of all of that. I can get rid of the VS or, and I can just look at, away team free balls. And then I can just start looking at these things on video and pulling what I need out of that. Is there something about these free balls that I need to fix in my code? So again, you can use all of the same tools that you would use to fix your own code that we talked about in the previous boot camp. You can be using all of those tools to also be able to clean code that you download from VolleyMetrics. Jesse.
Yeah, if you're in this view, you can also go, if Eduardo hovers over it and there's a little icon that says Open Match, you can edit in there, right? And so if I know that, let's say X5s and V5s are mixed up a lot, and I want to search for all X5s and make sure there's no V5s in there, I could search for all X5s. And then I can, the great part about that is like now I can kind of clean multiple matches at one time over those, when you search for these things. And if you edit here, it will go back into the match. It's not perfect. It's a little clunky, but I know some people that like to do it that way versus match by match. So you could do, X5s through all these matches and then go in and do X6 or something like that. So those things are a different way to clean it and look at it that way.
Yeah, sorry. It's much easier if I actually use a season where I have all the video files, so I apologize for that. But here's an example of what he's talking about. So X5s and V5s getting confused. So I can search for all the X5s. You can see I've got that whole list. And then I can be watching them in the video. If I see one that I need to change, as Jesse said, I can use the open match, and then I can edit that, change it from X5 to V5. All right. So once you have all that data and you've cleaned all these files, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to put it into? Now there's a whole bunch of different spreadsheets that we could possibly be working with. This sheet isn't great for that, but I can use one like, let's take a look at passing heat maps. This is a worksheet that we have in our in the Google Drive that you have access to. Again, if you need the link, if you need a link for that, let us know. We can get you set up with that very easily. So what we're looking at here is where are players on the team that you're scouting? Where are they receiving serves? And then those are indicated by the symbols. And then the heat map part of this is where does the ball go when it comes off of their arms? Where is the setter setting the ball from when they pass? That's what this sheet is looking at. So this is an example of how we can pull data and visualize it very well. We can also do this with some different spreadsheets that maybe are just a little bit more table-like, something like this, where we're going to see just numbers in tables versus any kind of visualization. This is another possibility for being able to view things. I want to come back here to this though and point out something. Remember that this is using the VS player name function, and it's referencing another cell, in this case, A3. All right, so let me show that column. So here's A3. In this case, it's using the VS player function, and it's asking VolleyStation to take the first outside on the roster. So this is one way that we can look at things, or one way that we can set up our sheets. This, when we've talked about dynamic sheets, a reminder that this is what we mean by dynamic, is just that if I change this, if I wanted to change this from the first outside to the second outside, I can do that. And then this changes to DeHogue instead of from Janari. Change that back. And all kinds of fun things. There we go. Getting that back to where it belongs. And so these are dynamic sheets, and these are based on the rosters that we have over here in Teams. Reminder, if you're using sheets that are built this way, then the easy way to fix those as you're scouting a different team each week is to go here into the edit roster that allows you to do the bulk editing of the roster. You'll notice Leah Hardman doesn't have a position on her. That means that she's not going to show up in any of those sheets that are pulling dynamically. But if I were to change her to an outside hitter, she suddenly becomes the first outside hitter on my list in these passing heat maps. So let me save this, close it, and reopen it. And now Hardiman shows up as the first outside hitter because she's the first one listed in numerical order on that roster. Janari is now the second, DeHogue is now the third, Fawcett is the fourth. So I can make those changes here. Now, another thing that you can do is you can create sheets. I've started to refer to these as being semi-dynamic because they're not just hard-coded where every single aspect of this, instead of pulling from this cell over here, it would just be using home number 6 to get this same thing. I would be doing something like this. I would be wanting to say all home six receptions, right? And let me put that in a VS count. Oh boy, I'm really doing great here. Oh, that's right. This needs to be in quotations. There we go. Right. So this would be what I would think of as being hard coded, right? So this isn't going to change no matter how I change the roster, no matter how I think about or who I'm scouting or anything like that. This is always just going to count home number 6 receptions. The dynamic version of that is something that's closer to this, right? Where I would use a VS player call, or in this case, it's even deeper in it than that, where I'm using these if statements to suppress things that are zeros or divided by zeros, stuff like this. That's what's happening there. It's just hiding things so it doesn't show me a whole bunch of errors, right? But ultimately what this is doing is this is dynamic because it's built on this information that's hiding over here. Something else that I can do though is this semi-dynamic sheet that I was talking about is we have the ability to know what lineups are going to be or what rosters are likely going to look like for the teams that we're scouting. And so something that I've started looking at is this idea of a semi-dynamic sheet. And I'll give you an example of this. By semi-dynamic, what I mean is instead of just using the roster, I'm going to use a static bunch of columns or a static bunch of cells in a column that have the lineup that I expect. So, for for Love Austin, I know that Logan Eggleston is the most important outside hitter they have. But if I go look at the roster, she's number 33, so she's last. So she's always going to show up as the last outside hitter in any sheet that I have that is dynamic. And so I'm burying the most important outside hitter in the sheets that I'm looking at. If I go with this semi-dynamic method, what I do here is I can enter their outsides in order of importance instead of in roster order. I can do the same thing with their middles, with their right sides. And so what I end up with here is this dynamic sheet is pulling them in roster order. So here's all the outsides that show up on that roster in numerical order. Again, Eggleston's at the bottom, but I know that she's important. So here's a semi-dynamic version that instead of pulling VS player that is associated with their position in the roster, this one here, the VS player number 1 outside, what I'm doing is I'm just saying reference this cell, E3, in sheet number 2. What's the player name that's associated with that number, home 33? And then all of this data here is then built out based on that cell in sheet number 2. And so it's semi-dynamic in the sense that if I update things here and I change this to home 2 instead of home 33, and I go back to the sheet, it has dynamically changed all of this information in this entire line, because that's how I've coded all of these formulas here, is that they're now looking for all of this information about number 2 instead of about number 33. I go back and I change this back to home 33, and we're back into Logan Eggleston's data. So this is another way that you can be thinking about the sheets that you use for scouting, so that you can build things that are specific to the team that you're going to play, but not subject to the order of their numbers on their roster. And so, like I said, I've been calling that semi-dynamic. If you want to call it something else, that if you got a better idea for a name, I'll happily take your ideas. But these are some ideas of what you can do for sheets that you can build out that are going to help you understand the opponents that you're going to play. This information is built on a little bit of prior knowledge that I happen to know. These 2 are going to be the starting outsides. These 2 are going to be the starting middles. And I've gotten that information maybe from somewhere else. But again, this is really just talking about what am I going to do with the information that's available to me from all the scout files that I might download. Let me give you another example of things that you can be putting all this data that you download and clean into. Something that I think is good to think about when you're passing information off to decision makers is being able to present information that isn't just in tables. Look for opportunities to use charts. So in this case, these are stacked bar charts. I personally love stacked bar charts as a way to be able to give good information to people that might be a little bit cloudier looking when you're looking at tables of data. What we're looking at here is different passers, and the bars here are broken up in terms of how, like, this is basically all percentages. What percentage of 100% is this particular reception grade? In this case, you see a 4 is down at the bottom, a 3 is this darker green that's stacked above it, a 2 or a medium pass is stacked above that, and then a 1, a 1/2, and a 0 at the top. And so this can be more useful because what I'm looking at then here is, hey, the greens are in system. Who's got a lot of in system? Who's got less in system? So this is maybe something that is a more beneficial way for people to look at data and absorb it more easily versus just looking at tables. So something to think about for how you present data is being able to do more than just tables. And of course, we also looked at how do you use court maps. That's something else that you can be doing in addition to those tables. And a reminder, if you want to build something like this, it's up here in the graph, add above cells. And that's going to get you the dialogue to be able to create a bar chart, stacked bar, which is what we were looking at, things like that. If you want to learn more about how do you create these, we have some great resources in our knowledge base about how you use the VS map functions and all of the different things that you can use to be able to. Oh, sorry, I closed the sheet that I was thinking of. Different ways that I can use this. So I can use heat maps, I can use arrows, I can use symbols, I can code just the beginning of stuff, just the end of stuff. But again, these are ways that you can present data so it doesn't just become lines of numbers to stare at. One more, and so these to me are great ways of looking at tendencies and patterns. Whereas these are more being able to talk about averages and likelihoods, but in a way that's more, but both of these things are more absorbable, more digestible than just tables. One other thing I wanna think about here with scouting is I got one more example. And that is thinking about efficiencies. And so this might take a second because it's pulling data from 3 matches and it's kind of an involved sheet. Something that I want to remind you of is notice this prefix that I have on here. A good habit, I think, to get in, especially when you have different sheets that you use for a specific subset of the things that you do. Add some sort of prefix on it that's going to allow you to search for it. You may have noticed every time I go to open a worksheet, I'm typing something in the search bar that is cutting down the number of sheets that I have to look at from this enormous list of sheets that I have imported into VolleyStation. And so then I can search for these things. It's sort of like having them hidden in folders, except to me, it's a little bit more efficient because I don't have to dig through several layers of folders to find the things that I'm looking for. And so efficiencies are going to show up in here. This is a great thing to be looking at in terms of how does a setter repeat or not, according to player and according to rotation. This is a sheet that is available again in our shared drive. If you need access to that, let us know. But what we're looking at here ultimately is efficiencies, right? This is one more thing that we definitely want to be able to pass along to decision makers and to people who are going to be running game plans for scouts. I want to take a second and bring Luke back in, since Luke, you mentioned before about being responsible, like you did. You were in a hybrid role where you were not only cleaning files and doing a lot of analysis, but you were also responsible for planning different aspects of the scout and then actually carrying those out in match. Talk about how you might be leveraging some of these different views, some of the different ways that you might have looked at data in order to get a better scouting report going.
Oh man, I could talk for a long time. I think one of the things that VolleyStation allows you to do is, one, you need to know how you work best, right? So are you a film watcher first, and do you back that up with data? Are you a data person first and back that up with film? Are you a chart person and you like to see the chart, see the numbers, and then watch the video? I was a video first person, and I would like to, I always like to get an idea, and that's part of the reason why I cleaned a lot of code. Was I ended up watching a lot of video, and in watching video, I would I would adopt some opinions and see some patterns. And from there, I would leverage what I saw with the software or the spreadsheets that we had, to make some more informed decisions and not just, go on your hunches. So I used a lot of, I think my favorite scout, let me see if I can pull this up really quickly. For just the spreadsheets and scouting in general, my favorite as a, my philosophy when I was putting together scouting reports was, how do I compartmentalize the game for my team and my players? So I'm going to share my screen real quick. And one of the ways that I did that was, I always wanted to try to get my players thinking about certain situations. And one of the ways I did that was something that I called the QDZ, the quick distribution zone for the opponent setter. So where is the setter setting the quick from? And how does that compartmentalize for my guys? So we ran a system where if the ball was on, on, off, over, if the call was on, that means that our system was on. But on was relative to the setter's quick distribution zone, which you can see here on the right. This is all of the locations where the setter was setting the quick. So I would take this information and I would parse it down and compartmentalize it for my team and get them to be like, okay, when the ball's in this area, our system is on, meaning we would sometimes be in a full read, everyone helping on the middle. Sometimes we'd be focused on zone 4 attackers, sometimes zone 2, sometimes zone 9. Sometimes we'd leave zone 9 alone. Sometimes we would leave the quick alone. But when we called on, it was all dependent on this. And how do you compartmentalize that? This is an easy visual to give your team to say, hey, this little, what looks like a triangle almost, is going to compartmentalize it for my team. In the same way, I also would compartmentalize it by asking where or what does the setter do when they're pushed to 2, right? So when that pass pushes them to 2, where are they setting and how do I compartmentalize that for my team? In this instance, I think it's Carly Lloyd that's pulled up here. Anyway, the setter is setting long way quite often to zone 4. So when they're pushed to 2, they're not setting back as much as they're setting long way to spread the offense out. And I can now parse that information and give it to my guys. So, hey, we're not going to shift short side if the ball's pushed into 2 because the setter likes to send it long way. So we're going to stay neutral. So long story short, Eduardo, I'm sorry I got a little long-winded there. I leveraged a lot of what I was seeing on film into a visual that I could easily process with numbers and visuals, and then translate that into a scout to give to my team, specifically my team and not necessarily my other coaches, but an easy way to help my players compartmentalize different situations in the game to make it easier for them to make decisions. And so this is just the best example I could come up with on the fly about how to do that efficiently with a spreadsheet. I don't know if I even came close to answering your question, Eduardo.
That was great. No, that's it. So what I wanted, I think this is a great segue though, is that Luke's talking about how he would take that scout then and be able to sort of essentialize it or compartmentalize it and be able to make it manageable in match. And so that brings us to, what are we going to do in match? And before we get into what we do in match, we should talk about what we're going to do before the match starts. There looks like a decent percentage of you are new to VolleyStation, so likely I'm assuming that you're also going to be new to what are all the things that I'm going to be doing on match days. And well, there's a whole bunch of different ways that can sort out in terms of what are your specific responsibilities, what things are taken up by other people. I think it is important to think about what can you plan out ahead of time so that you can give yourself as much lead time as you can to manage the things that are not necessarily in your really strongly in your control. Couple of things that you can do is create the match file ahead of time. All this scout information that you have. Remember, I talked about like I might go back and look at lineups from 10 previous matches. I've got a great idea based on that on what lineup the other team is likely to roll out against us. And on top of that, I also have a pretty good sense of what rotation they're probably going to start in. So I can create a match file that's going to have my team in the rotation I think they're going to be in, and the opponent's lineup in the rotation that I think they're going to be in. And I can have that saved on my computer and ready to go days ahead of time if I want to, just depending on how the rest of my week unfolds, what it is that I have time to do. It doesn't take long to do it, but it is something that I can have done ahead of time before the match starts. And so one of the things that I'll remind you you have access to that is a great tool that I would also have built out ahead of time is this rotation planner. A reminder that's right over here in the sidebar. And so this is something that you would fill in manually. I took this from this match that we're going to be looking at here in a little bit, Madison versus Omaha. These are the starting lineups for the two love teams that were playing each other in the playoffs this past season. Madison against Omaha. These are their starters. These are not the rotations that they were in. This is just the default starting in one. What I actually know from this match is that Omaha started in 5, or to be more like everybody else in the rest of the world, setter in zone 3. So let me change Omaha over here, team B, into setter in zone 3. And then Madison started setter in 6. And Madison was the receiving team in this. So here's the rotation planner built out for how they actually started the match. So I can have this set up ahead of time based on where I think we're going to start and where I think our opponents are going to start. And so I can start looking at matchups, or I can provide this information to coaches. Notice that there is the ability to print. By the way, we have a print version of this, which will suck up much less toner if you actually print it. And what that'll do then is it'll provide you, if I click this button, it's going to provide me a PDF, and that PDF then I can go print very easily. Okay, so this is something that I can do and have built out before the match that will allow me to do some things during the match, or it's something that I can make changes to during the match. But I don't have to build it from scratch during the match. So this is one way that I can be more efficient, save myself some time going into matches. Some other good tips about this is make friends with the other team. Something that I would always do prior to matches, especially if it was at home, is I would go talk to whoever it was that was doing the coding on the other side. Some of it would be small talk, but some of it would be like, hey, this is where our VolleyMetrics camera is, just so you know that that's the angle that you're going to get video from. Do you want to set up your own camera? If so, then here's where the outlets are. Here's where I set up my camera, stuff like that. Just stuff that breaks the ice, but also helps them be prepared for what they're going to do. It's a good thing to be able to say, like, to know, like, hey, if my video goes bad, are you recording anything? I always had multiple video sources to make sure that if I forgot to start the camcorder, or if something happened to my volumetrics recording, like for some reason it didn't start. I put AM instead of PM, or I picked the date wrong, something like that, and it's not recording, that I always had a backup. But these are things that you can mitigate those risks a little bit by seeing, hey, does somebody else have video? Oh, okay, great. You've got video. If anything happens, I'm going to come to you after the match. Or if anything happens to your video, let me know. I can pull it off of my camcorder right after the match. That way you're still walking out of here with video. Those are, again, things that you can be doing pre-match that can help smooth over and give you some additional contingencies for if things go poorly. Give yourself time to be able to troubleshoot any network issues that you might have, especially if you're using VolleyStation Online, which Luke is going to talk about in a little bit, or if you're using iPads or other computers that are taking advantage of you being able to share out worksheets, etc., or if you're dual coding. Those are all reasons why you want to make sure that your connection to the network and the other devices that you might have connected are all working well. One great way to be able to see if those things are working is to open up the match that you're going to be coding in, coding a point. Just give like an ace and make sure that point is registering on the data that's being fed to those other machines, and then delete that point back out. Take it back out, so that way it's not clouding anything up. But again, give yourself time to be able to do that. Once you're in match, then as Luke would describe it, when you're working in match, it's really about panic management. That things are going to go wrong. And what I mean by wrong, like that's a really wide array of things. It could be anything from like, we're 3 points in and I remember I forgot to start my camera. I was usually good for at least one match or practice every season where I would be 10 minutes into coding and I would turn and look at my camera and realize that I didn't start it. That is one way that things can go wrong. This is why I have multiple sources of video. That way I can just sort of take a deep breath and be like, oh, that's right, I have another source of video. Jesse, what do you got for me?
Listen, I got paranoid about starting the camera. So if your job is to start the camera, like I would put an alarm on my watch or my phone. I would not let, if you're an assistant, and no offense to any managers on this call, if you're a manager and you're just on call trying to learn, like if I'm the one that's dealing with it, I am not letting a manager go turn on the camera. Like it's you have one job, it's to get the film. And so like make sure there's some fail safes in there to make sure that gets done. It can become a panic if you have to sprint up the stairs during the national anthem. You're running back down the stairs hoping you don't fall and get to the match. So put some safety in there.
Yep. And so but things going wrong can also be as simple as like, oops, I made a mistake coding in that rally. And so what you're doing to give yourself ways of responding to all of those different possible things that go wrong, they can be very different. Some of them are frantically running up the steps after the national anthem. Some of them are just being able to make notes in code. Those are things that we'll talk about a little bit more here in a second. But those are pre-match things that you can do to position yourself, to give yourself as much time to deal with any of those little things that might go wrong. It's good to be thinking about what are you going to be providing in match and making sure those things are set up and working. So like I would always have the iPads that I was going to be handing to assistants. I would always have those set up ahead of time. Again, like while teams are warming up, I would check my network connection. I would open up the match that I was going to be scouting from. I would make sure that my iPads had the right match, that they were pulling data from the correct match, and that they were all functioning and pulling data. And then I would make sure that they had the worksheets open that they needed to have open on them. And hey, you know what? If the battery on your iPad can't last for a 5-set match, then have them plugged in right up until the match starts, and then unplug them. And then breathe easy that those iPads are going to last for the entire match. ABC, always be charging. Right up until the first whistle blows, ABC. Once the match is going, I don't want to have anything plugged in, because I don't want to. I don't like that. To me, is an extra thing that I can break. Jesse used to give me so much anxiety when we were both using Data Volley, and you had to plug in the USB key in order to open up the program. But then once the program was open, you could take the key out. Jesse would leave it in, and I'm like, dude, that is $800 that you are just asking to break. Take it off, put it in your pocket, please. But that's me, and that was me managing my stress by taking the key out, putting it in my pocket. Jesse managed his stress by leaving the key in. And so that there's different ways of managing all of this, but like I said, or like Luke said, it's all just panic management. So real quick then, how do you deal with those little things like making coding mistakes in the match? Reminder that you can edit tons of stuff. So if I'm doing something, if I'm coding here and I'm saying that opponent 10 serves medium, and I'm just gonna, let's just say I put she serves from 7 to 3. I'm not watching the video yet. We'll watch it here in just a second. And I submit that. Right? So I know I'm doing this off a video, but let's imagine that I'm doing this live. And so I code a serve that just happened live as starting in zone 7 and ending in zone 3. And then I realize after the rally goes on, oh, shoot, that's a mistake. Okay. Do I want to fix that mistake right now? Maybe, maybe not. Is it worth me remembering that? Is that an important enough mistake that I need to leave myself a breadcrumb so I can go find it later? Probably not. Okay. But if instead of that, if I had done, if I had been, yeah, like if I just did that, if I had accidentally said AO1 because my right hand got a little too excited and typed the 0 before I typed the 1, even though 10 was serving, and I said, oh, 1 serves instead. Is this something that is important enough for me to fix if I notice it? You bet it is, right? Because this is going to start affecting the data that comes in. Like me having a short serve versus a serve that went to zone 1, maybe that's going to affect some of your calculations. Maybe it's not. But me having an incorrect player, that's probably something that I should fix. So let's say that I did manage to get everything else in that rally. I'm just going to pick random people to, I'm going to say 4 receive that, 3 set it, and then 12 attack and got a kill. I can do something real simple like that. I'm gonna end that rally for the home team. They are in that point. Yay, great job. And then I can very quickly, if nothing else is happening, I can double click. I can fix that code. Great. Yay. Maybe I don't have that time. Okay, fine. Make a mental note. Go back to that play during a timeout, break and play, something like that. Another thing that I can do if it's not that simple a fix, we've talked about this before. I like to use f/ as something that is something I can search for that is going to be a flag for me, something that I can search for that's going to tell me there's something around this play that needs to be fixed. If I have the time, I can if I use 2 commas, that gets me into the custom code. Maybe I missed the serve. And so I'm just going to put code in that says add S. That's going to remind me that I need to add a serve into this rally. That's something else that I can do. I can do very quickly, right? So just entering that code, F/, add serve, right? Doesn't take a lot of time to be able to type that. So that, helps if there we go. So these are things that you can do very quickly to just make mental notes about those mistakes and just allow yourself to move on. Jesse, what do you got?
I would say also if you're coding and you get behind for 1 point and you're still trying to catch up the end, it's really important if you can not miss a whole point. So just get that point finished. And then if you still get in the next point's going, just start that point. Even if you miss all that, leave a breadcrumb and then get yourself back as soon as you can without missing a point. Cause there's, people are rotating, you got the wrong score and that sort of stuff. And you can come back, but it's like building a skeleton. If I build the points, then I can fill in the muscles, right? The points are the skeletons, the points of the serves. So make sure you're not missing those.
Yeah, that's a great point. So for instance on that, let's say that I started coding a rally, and then the attack gets hit in my direction, and it gets shanked. It's going straight up over me. Players are running. I'm sitting there. I'm not coding anymore, and I lose track of what's happening. And then the play goes on, and then I've lost out on something. Okay, I've lost out on that code. Okay, fine. Just get an F/. How did the point end? Okay, Madison won the point again. End the rally. I got that F/ in there, but now I can just get it. I can get the serve in, or maybe something else happened and I missed the beginning of the play, right? Then just get the serve in. Get the serve in, and then get the point awarded in the right direction. That way, get the point awarded in the right direction. Oh boy, sorry. That way you can start the next rally on time. That's what Jesse's talking about. Just get something in there, and you know what? You're going to have to fix that time code later, fine, but make sure that you get that in there, so that way you have the point that you can build something off of. Because then I can just come in here and I can add a play before, and I can start adding in those things after the fact. I don't need to try and do it in the moment. I can just get busy moving on with what happens next, and I'll just add that point in later. These are ways that you can be dealing with those kinds of mistakes. One thing that I will say is you can change a point after the fact much more easily than you can add an entire point in. That's another thing to build off of what Jesse was saying. If I do this and I click on that point and I say edit, I can change which way that point was awarded by adjusting all of those things. Right? That's going to allow me to change the score for that point. But if I don't have a point, can I add it in? Yes, but it's about 5 steps instead of 1 or 2. So get the point in there as often as possible. If you miss it, know that you're going to be able to recover from it, but maybe take the extra second to just put a serve and award a point. Award that point the correct way. That way you've got the bones to be able to build the muscle on later. One thing that I want to talk about that's important, not so much in terms of errors in coding, but something that comes up very commonly, is challenges. In challenges, what I recommend doing is when you get to the end of the point, and you don't, and let's say, like generally what's going to happen is the referee is going to blow the whistle and they're going to award the point one way or the other. You might already know that the challenge is coming because it was something that happened during the play. It doesn't matter. Award the point the same way the officials do. The reasoning for this is going back to what Jesse said. Give yourself the bones to build the rally off of. So if I've got something here, I can build on it. If I award the point in the direction the officials do, now I can just sit there and wait for them to review the video. What I like to do during that review is I'll come up here, and at the beginning of the play, that's where I'm going to add I'm going to add a free ball again. And then I can add in there challenge. I like to use CH and then away for the away team or H for the home team. And then I'll use a number to indicate which challenge that was. It's something that I've used just to keep track of challenges. You don't have to be that into it. You could just put like challenge, CHAL, whatever. You got 5 characters. Just something in there again, so you can go find the code later. Do this while the officials are reviewing the video. And then if the call is reversed, then you can just go here, edit the point, change which way the point was awarded, and move on to the next rally. If the challenge ends up not changing the outcome of the point, then great. Then you probably don't have to change anything. But I leave that in there. I won't worry about fixing the code. You know, like maybe there was a touch off the block. They saw it on the video review. And so now that what was an attack error becomes a kill. Don't worry about it. You can fix it later, maybe during a timeout or in between sets. But now you've got this reminder, this thing that you can search for in the code, so you can go back and fix that later on. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like sometimes you just know it's going to get challenged, right? So it's the end of the play. You've typed everything in. I'll just pause and wait to assign the point, and I won't even hit enter in there yet, because if it gets replayed, then I'll just delete it out and start the next point. And if it's what I have in my code, if it's the challenge is unsuccessful, then I'll just go with it and hit enter. And if not, I need to change. It's usually the ending piece of the play, so it doesn't really matter. So that's another option for you. Hey, it also, like, Eduardo is doing this a lot and adding these type of things in there. If you're a beginner, you might not. This is probably like step 17 of like how much stuff you want to put in. So don't think that you have to put these things in there, unless your coach is like really into like seeing their challenge plays again. Honestly, spend your time on getting better versus stuff that's a coin flip anyways. That's my opinion.
Yeah. No, I think for me, a lot of it too is like have the note, have the F/ the note there for yourself, so you can go back and find it if there's something you need to fix. That's really I think the best takeaway from that. I want to emphasize something that Jesse said there, which is don't delete your code unless the review results in a replay. Now, sure, is there still video that you could go back and watch and have that code sync to? Yes, sure, certainly there is. But officially speaking, that rally no longer happened. Whatever it is you coded no longer exists. So the stats that are from it no longer exist either. But if the rally did happen, keep your code. So just keep what you coded until a replay is decided, which doesn't happen all that often. Generally, calls are just changed one way or the other. But yeah, don't delete the code from that unless a replay happens. If a replay happens, then just go here, select. You're gonna select the point, this line of code that has the point in it, and say delete. And now that point's gone. So I want to move into post-match really quickly. the one thing that I want to point out in here is just syncing video, right? So that goes down here. All of this video is currently time-stamped according to this serve because I've already added the video in. Reminder on the two ways that you have to sync plays. You have the red mark playtime button down at the bottom, and you have this mark next plays button up here. Let me reset the sync. And so now you can see how some of this stuff is really weird and off, right? So if I come to here, and I play in the video, you can see that it's not synced correctly. It's synced all the way to the end of the video. So I'm going to drag it back here. It should be right around 112. There it is. So I'm going to let that video play, pause it when we get to here. Now I've got two decisions I can make, or two options I can do here. I can use mark playtime, and that's going to affect this play only. That's what mark play time means. We talk about plays, we're talking about the current touch on the ball. And so if I choose that option, mark play time, what you're going to see here is the beginning of this rally, which is going to be synced to this serve, is going to go from 63-34 to 112. And now all of these get super off, right? But that's because I only changed this one. If I'm here and I choose mark next plays, that's going to sync everything. The reason why these are so far off is because I opened this up on a separate day. So the mark next plays is going to sync everything, which should work fairly well based on if you're coding everything live at that moment. If it doesn't, something like this happens where you added in a line afterwards when you were cleaning stuff up, that's where mark playtime comes in handy again. Right, so the video is at 112 again. We'll let that play, get it to somewhere else, and then I choose mark playtime again. Notice all of these stay the same, but this one changes. Okay, important distinction to make. Jesse.
Yeah, and Eduardo showed, hey, just pause it on the server. I would suggest playing around where you pause that video to sync. I would always pause on the server and then go 2 seconds back. Because I was like, I'm going to be pretty accurate on the serve timing, but I'm going to inherently be a little bit behind on the attacking, right? So the attack happens, and so I don't want to go search through attacks, and it's like giving me exactly when they touch the ball. I want a little pre-roll in there, and so I tend to put 2 seconds before. If you're new, it might need to be 3 seconds. It might need to be 4 seconds for attacking. If you get past that, then the serve is going to get wonky. So you got to find how your pace of tagging and what works for you. But I would suggest if you're having some sync issues, you might just need to sync it earlier in there. Try to be really good, particularly on that first serve and subsequent serves. Just note that it's going to, whenever you start typing, it's going to tag at the time. So it could be a or a number. And it goes, not when you hit S. So just some thoughts.
Yeah. And then this is where Jesse's talking about where you can give yourself more pre-roll here. You can change this 1 second before. This is the default. You can change it to 2 or 3, whatever it might need to be, based on how well you're able to keep up with what's happening in the match and if you get behind on time. All right. So then when it comes to cleaning code, for your own stuff post-match, we're going to be using the same tools that we talked about in the scouting, where you can use different things like video analysis to be able to clean your code. You can be able to you can use the show view here to be able to see things in video, and you can still double click on things to be able to edit them. So that's another tool that you've got to be able to make adjustments to your code to clean up your own code post-match. This is also the opportunity for you to be able to search for all of your F slashes and see the things that maybe you need to fix in your code. Right, so this is where all my F slashes are. Right, oh, I need to add a serve here. Okay, let's see. Oh, here's that play. Okay, add play before. I'm going to add a serve in. Things like that. Now, one thing that we really haven't talked about much at this point is how we can use VolleyStation Online in addition to or instead of VolleyStation Pro for in-match, but particularly post-match. So Luke's going to talk about how we can use VolleyStation Online in a post-match settings, so that you can get more out of what you're doing in pro or in online to incorporate other people on your staff.
Yeah, we've talked about online being a lot like Google Sheets, so it's shared and all the edits are shared. So one administrator can really manage that system, and if it's you who's on this call, this allows for a lot of leeway for you to work post-match. So without the online, if you're just working in pro and your coaches are going to work in pro, you're probably going to steal a hard drive from them. You're going to pull the video off of whether it's volumetrics or your backup camera, whichever one. You're going to upload that to your pro. You are going to sync the code. You're going to clean the code. And then you're going to have to either, if you've already distributed the video to your coaches, you're going to have to send the code out synced, most likely, when you're confident that your code is clean and worthy of sharing to your staff. One way that VolleyStation Online will help with workflow efficiencies is, let's say you're coding in pro during a match, which I think we all advise at this point. But you're coding in pro during a match, you get finished with that match, your coaches can scatter. And they can go home, you can pull the video, you can upload the match once it is cleaned to VolleyStation Online. And usually by the time those coaches get home, you can have a synced / maybe semi-cleaned match up on VolleyStation Online so that they can watch that video. And you can edit it as they're watching it. It'll pull things away depending on what their searches are. But it's a really nice and easy way for everyone to kind of disperse to where they need to be and where they most like to work. And for you to be able to distribute the video and the scout file efficiently and effectively. There are a couple wrinkles in there. If you only want to share a cleaned file, then you potentially probably want to clean it offline and only upload it when it's clean. If you don't mind sharing your uncleaned match, then you can potentially make a season that's of like dirty matches and upload there and have your coaches like instant access to those. Or you can just upload to a season with the confidence that your staff has in you to clean that code by the end of the night, or whatever that deadline is that you put on yourself. If that all makes sense. Jesse, did I miss anything on that, or Eduardo?
No, I think that coaches usually they want to watch that match pretty soon, so getting a dirty code up there is fine. And most of the time they're wanting to watch more than, hey, I got to pick through the numbers right then and there. So, and also is like you're like, coach, it's ready, and then they're like, oh, great, this is awesome. I can watch it right now, and I can search for watch by rotation or what have you. So, I would try to get the dirty code up as soon as possible onto VS Online. Right now, we can't replace that scout file in VS Online. So we're working on some different technology to make that possible. So expect some updates sooner than later on that.
Cool. All right. So real quick, if you didn't see it in the chat, that is what we've got to what we wanted to cover today. We did schedule this for an hour and a half, but that's just a ballpark. If you have questions, we're happy to stick around and answer questions for you now. This recording will be available by tomorrow, and Jesse will get an email out, or I will get an email out to everybody with links to all 3 of the boot camps. A reminder that we will start, or I will start hosting office hours. Those were in the same emails that the information about those were in the same emails that Jesse sent out about these boot camp sessions. So we've got 4 different office hour sessions, and those are just going to be time that's available where I will be there for you to answer any questions, talk through any scenarios that have come up for you as you've been going through all of your coding in your practices in these first few weeks. So if you got questions, now's your chance. Raise your hands, put them in the chat. If you got stuff, hit us.
Oh,
Emily, what do you got?
Emily, we can't hear you. Did we lose you?
Yep. Nope, still there, but yeah. If your audio's, oh, there you are. Okay. Say it.
How to make her a contributor? Sorry.
Yeah, it says view only, so I can't like put anything in the chat or anything like
All
that.
right. All right.
Oh, I'm gonna change that for everybody. Sorry.
Thank you. Apologies.
Okay, I'm new to VolleyStation. In practice, our team is competing in 6-on-6, but we're looking at like rotation 1, and then in the middle of the drill, coach is like, okay, go to rotation 4. And so she wants to see that rotation, but I have to add a point. Is there a way for me not to add a point in order to move my rotations around? Does that make sense? Like, is there a practice mode like in the other system that I have used in the past?
No, but you can adjust the rotations, but you do have to award a point. Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe that's the only way you can start. Spinning the dial on that.
You're going to have a break in play, right? So the point is going to be done, and then coach is like, "Hey, I want you guys rotate 3 rotations, forward, backward, switch, whatever."
Mhm.
And so you want to get that setter in the right spot, and so you can use the shortcut keys to do that. And that is the best way to do that instead of just like rotating them around like point by point by point by point, I think is what you're saying. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so we need to use the I key.
Okay.
Like I4 would put the home team in rotation 4, but the point has to be done. So it's outside of the whistles, just as like a sub or a timeout.
Right. Yep.
Done. You put I4, you're good.
Okay.
And then little I 4 would put the other team in that rotation, and then you're good to go. These are great shortcuts to have. I think Eduardo mentioned, putting the lineups in before the match. Sometimes I'll put a lineup in, and maybe I got the lineup right, but I need to switch rotation. So like, yeah, this lineup's right, and I'll just hit the AI5, and they'll be in the correct rotation to start the match. I'm good to go. I don't even sub as long as for the other team, just I don't care if my lineup is right for the other team as long as I have the setter correct and they're in the right rotation. I don't do any subs on their side or anything like that. Particularly like outside hitters that are getting DS'd, I want to see when that next, if they have a big outside hitter that's subbed out, I want to see where they are in the back row. So when they rotate in, those type of things. So yeah, I button. And if you get that, open a new tab and scroll down. There's some shortcuts here, shortcuts for command line. It's in there.
Yep. And a reminder too that go ahead and award the point, regardless of whether there should be one there or not. You can always then edit that point so that the score remains the same as it was from the previous point. And then that'll free you up to make your rotation changes, but still have the same score.
Okay, here's my next question. I did this in practice the other day, and I lost every single code from the previous point.
Don't do
So
that.
I took the code, and it just completely deleted the entire, like I lost my entire scout file.
Yeah,
Like,
you can't delete out, because if you, let me share the screen again. So what I think you're describing is if you're here and so like this is the
Yeah.
point, this is
Yep.
the point that you awarded that you didn't want.
Yep.
If you click here and you say delete,
Uh-huh.
you're not deleting this line of code, you're deleting this and everything that happened that resulted in this point. What I'm suggesting that you do is see how the score's 2-0 here,
Okay.
and then I want it to remain 2-0, and I added this point in here. I'm saying go here, edit this, and just change it so that it remains 2-0. That'll allow you, that'll keep all of your code,
Okay.
but it will allow you to make the rotation changes that you want.
But does
Is that-
that sync up with volume? Like when we put the file into volumetrics, does that sync up? Does that make sense? So like in the past, I've had code and scout files that if there are points awarded during like practice,
Mhm.
that it won't sync properly. And so that's where what was happening is that my code wasn't syncing properly. And so I've had to get rid of points. And then, so it's the sync, I guess, piece.
I would double check. Like if you have a situation like that,
Mhm.
like you saw how it shows the correction in there.
Yep.
I would go find that area in your code
Okay.
and then check the sync.
Okay.
Like check the sync in VolleyStation to see that, to see if those plays in that point before it are synced correctly.
Okay.
If it is, then yeah, I don't think that's necessarily the answer.
Okay. Cool.
Let's see. Jess O'Brien. When syncing video and using mark next plays, can you only use that button on the first rally of a set, or can it be used in any of the rallies? It can be used in any of them, and it'll sync from that point forward. So it says mark next plays. It won't affect anything upstream of that, anything earlier in your code list, but it will affect everything later in that code list.
That's a good question. Yeah. Yeah, particularly like sometimes you'll get like, hey, my video went out. I got to use a different video. I'm going to use the same scout file for 2 videos. I really just need to start it at the second set. And so I'm just going to sync the second set into that video. And so I go to the first serve during the second set. I get my cursor on that. It's really only 30 seconds into this new video. But really in the old video, it's synced in like 30 minutes in. Now I need to sync it 30 seconds in. I highlight that. I get it to 30 seconds. I hit mark next place, and I'll go down. Don't worry about the first set because you're not using it for that one anyways. There's no video, so who cares?
What other questions do you have?
I have a question.
Yes, Kate.
So when I'm very new to VolleyStation, but when I'm in practice and I'm coding a rally and there's not very much time between the rallies and I'm hitting enter or return and I'm trying to input my codes for a single rally, but I accidentally did some type of typo that's like 2 commas or 2 periods or something, and it gives you that little red box that says we can't do it. Is there a way to, I don't even know, like override, because that's just a typo?
Yeah. Great question. Hit shift and enter and it'll just go in and it'll be red and you can fix it later.
Amazing. Thank you. You just made
There-
my day.
These little things, we've had these conversations with people. They're like, oh my God, I just spent so much time doing this and you just saved me so much. Kate, what school are you with, Kate? I'm not familiar with you. Sorry.
Yeah, I just started. I'm a graduate assistant for Rice University.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
The Owls. All right.
Yeah.
Good spot.
keep in mind with that, with the shift enter is that it is a little bit particular in terms of what the typo might be. You might have caught a little while ago. I was trying to put in F/ and I put in F period, and so the dot made my code look like it was something that it wasn't, and so the shift enter might not necessarily work. Same thing is if you're trying to enter something like a sub or a rotation change, those things can only be submitted immediately they have to be the line immediately following a point being awarded. You can't force that to be entered into the middle of a rally. But when it comes to just regular plays, like bump set spike, those things you can submit.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
What other questions do you have?
All right. If we don't have any other questions, we're getting off of here. Thanks for getting on. If you guys have any questions, reach out. Eduardo?
Yep. Please do. That is my job. That is what I'm here for.
Good luck to everybody. I know it's the grind right now.
All right. Peace out. Thanks for being here.
Hey, everybody.
Thanks,
Kate.
I like Kate already.
There you go. All
right. Boot camps.
I tell you, I have to stop the recording.